Let's be honest, there's no guidebook when it comes to relationships. So we end up having to stumble through life trying to figure things out for ourselves. What if there was a podcast that found the answers for you, that provided insight to build a successful relationship and ultimately find the companionship you've always hoped for? Welcome to the Girls Ask Guys show, where we answer the questions most people are afraid to ask when it comes to lessons in life and love. It's time to master this thing called life together with your hosts, John and Ashley.
And welcome back to the Girls Ask Guys show, where we're your guide to dating, life, love, marriage, relationships, and everything else. And we have a shocking episode for you today that we're going to introduce, and you're not going to want to miss it on Thursday because this thing is going to be freaking huge. We're talking about child brides.
It's really insane that we in this day and age even have to discuss this. John brought this to the table and I'm like, there's no way this shit's real. And then he sends me these articles and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Some of them come from CBS News, where they researched immigration paperwork, where there's a loophole in the law to where you can legally marry a child. I'm talking as young as 13 years old and bring them to the United States. And there are loopholes within U.S. state laws.
It's criminal. Like, I hate to say it this way, but it's completely criminal. And that to me is child trafficking. If you go to another country and you try and bring a child over with the idea of marriage behind it, that's trafficking to me.
The immigration laws don't see it that way because what they look at is the marriage legal in the country of origin? If it's legal there, then the United States will recognize that marriage and allow the couple to come over.
That's so weird, man. And you know what's the worst part? Is there's probably some fucking sicko sitting there justifying this like, well, technically, it's not illegal. I can't imagine at 13 years old being like, I want to marry this person.
And the fact that this is happening today in the 21st century is mind-blowing. Really, this whole show, I was looking at and researching how dating has changed throughout time, going from ancient Rome all the way through today. And I came across just a single sentence that said contemporary courting age for that time period. And it conflicted with what I had learned about marriage during that time period. So I started researching that, and an article popped up and it showed 5,000 underage women have been married in Colorado. And I just went down that rabbit hole, and the more I dug, the more I found.
To me, it's crazy because we really talk about how we live in a progressive society. Me and you, especially, we always talk about how things are changing for the better and how things are getting better for men and women. And to find out things are just terrible for preteen just pisses me off.
Yeah, there was a request sent into immigration and they approved a 13-year-old coming over. And this was a petition of a minor involved in an approval. It's under Form I-130 and it was approved.
Do they get the permission of the kid's parents?
They don't need it.
It's fucking disgusting.
Well, because most of it is, it's a forced marriage by the parents, because once that child has a passport or they have legalized citizenship in the United States, the child can then petition for the rest of the family to come over.
I get that. I really do. I understand the concept, and I just can't wrap my mind around the people who are marrying the kids. It's not necessarily the idea that you get married. It's the idea that there is somebody in this world who literally is trying to marry a child and then use the guise of citizenship as like, well, if you marry me, your whole family can come over. It's predatory.
Right. There was even a revelation that nearly 4,000 minors, mostly girls, were married in a state from 1995 through 2012. And 178 of them were under the age of 15. And they were forced into at least marriages.
I'm absolutely speechless. You know how hard that is to do. It's just...
This whole thing is just mind-blowing.
Like I said, the parents and the kid who are doing the marriage, I can understand the concept of, well, if you do this for mom and dad, we'll all be able to be together in the future. But what I don't understand is the predator who is saying, hey, marry me. Or even, I'm sure there's predators that are even worse.
Oh, yeah.
Who are like, sure, if you marry me, I'll take your daughter to America and we'll petition. And they never fucking petition.
And there's nothing for the rest of the family to do. And now this child is trapped in a relationship.
All because some fucking sicko.
Their entire life, their childhood is gone.
It's heartbreaking, I would say, is the number one word.
Yeah.
It's also just alarming. And it's kind of scary to think that you see a kid who came from a different country with someone else, and all you can do is just hope that person really did have their best interest in mind.
These are kids who should be in like junior high and going through and enjoying the whole junior high school experience, and then possibly going into college, just figuring out that whole aspect of their lives, going to parties, going to concerts and everything else. No, what they do is that they get to go home to a husband,
a psychopath,
and fixing dinner and cleaning the house instead of going out and partying with their friends.
I don't see the appeal. I don't see the appeal of keeping a child hostage for your own fucking ego. I don't understand why the government
approves it,
would allow that. I don't care if it's recognized in this country. That's their country's problem.
This is our government that comes down on top of pedophiles and sentences these people to life in prison. They are the most abused people in the correctional system. However, because the marriage was legal in another country, they allow it to happen here. And this person's going, well, you can't touch me because the federal government that usually prosecutes people like me, I get away with it.
Right. And I would like to make the definitive statement right here and now. If you're thinking of getting a fucking child bride, you are not welcome to listen to the show.
Right. I just watched an episode where we have law enforcement agents from our country who has legal status in other countries to help investigate people who travel from our country to go to another country to have sex with an underage minor in that country. And they prosecute them. They prosecute them there, and then they extradite them back over here, and they prosecute them here under U.S. law. However, because of this loophole, we cannot prosecute these people for going over and marrying an underage person.
Yeah, no, like I said, and I mean this wholeheartedly, if you don't find anything wrong with that, this is not the show for you. Because that is some predatory ass weird shit. And you know what? There needs to be fuck a loophole. There needs to be a literal law that says if you bring a child over here that is not your fucking child, you're going to Guantanamo Bay or something like that.
This is going to be like an epic episode. This is an investigation that I never in my wildest dreams thought that we would be doing on this show.
Absolutely, me either. Nothing I ever planned for. But I think once we get into Thursday's show and we start doing it and we get deeper into this, you guys are going to see probably a lot of passion and emotion, because this isn't something we ever want to fucking talk about, by the way. Like, we don't look on the news and say, hey, hopefully a kid's getting kidnapped today. No, the reason we talk about these things is because they bother us. And there's things that we're able to speak about because we've grown our platform big enough, and we hope that it makes an impact on other people.
Yeah. Not only do we have that, we also have where most of these requests come from and which ones have the highest approval ratings. This is something that really, really bothers me. I mean, I didn't even think this stuff existed nowadays, but apparently it is still happening in 2021, we're coming up on 2022. I mean, we're halfway through this year, and this is still happening.
It's going to be a fucking doozy.
Yeah. So, with that, we will talk to you on the next one.
That's all for this episode of the Girls Ask Guys show, where all of us learn to master this thing called life together. For more answers to your questions on life and love, be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss a single episode. And head to girlsaskguyshow.com to submit your questions for a future episode or apply to be a guest on the show. Good luck out there, and we'll catch you next time, right here on the Girls Ask Guys show.